here is I have our partition plan here. And on our partition plan, we have, let me go over to model space here. We have our walls, and those are all lines, etc. And then we XREFed in all of our furnitures. And when I click on the furniture, all of the furniture, that is the furniture XREF brought into our partition plan. And then if I move over to my furniture plan, which I also have open, we can select each and every individual piece of furniture and all of our walls and our building shell. That all selects that as one thing because that is an XREF. So we took a blank sheet or new drawing, we XREFed in all of our furniture, and then we XREFed in all of our partitions, and then we started drawing our furniture. So today we're going to start a new drawing. Let me go to start and go over to new and create a new COD interiors template. Use version 25.11.05, which is the version we downloaded at the beginning of this project. And before I do anything else, let me save this. So put this on my USB. In my CAD 2 class, I have a Project 10 folder, and I created the Project 10 folder so that all of our XREF drawings are all together to make it easy for AutoCAD to find them. And I'm going to call this my ceiling dash lighting plan. Okay, good. So now let's bring in our furniture plan. But before we can do that, we need to create a new layer for the XREF. So I'm going to call that new layer XREF dash furniture or furniture plan, however you want to do it. Furniture or furniture plan. And I'm going to make that the current layer. Okay. So there is XREF furniture plan. And now I'm going to bring in, or I'm going to attach our furniture plan to it. So I'll use the command attach, just like we did last week. And I will attach the furniture plan. I'm going to bring that into my new ceiling plan. And I'll hit open. And I get this attached external reference box that comes up. And I am going to make this an attachment. And I want to make sure that the scale is 1, 1, and 1. And I want to make sure that insertion point is 0, 0, 0. And I'm not going to check specify on screen. I'll just leave it unchecked and make sure that X, Y, and Z is 0, 0, 0. Remember, we want all of these XREFs to register exactly on top of each other. And the way we can be assured that that will happen is if our insertion point is always 0, 0, 0. Okay, I'll hit OK. It's giving me a circular reference detected. I'll just say yes to that. That's fine. And let me zoom extents, Z enter, E enter. And there it is. There is my plan. I've got the walls or partitions, and I've got the furniture on it. And I've got this unreconciled new layers. So let's just deal with that right now. So I'm just going to click on view unreconciled new layers. And all that is doing is it's telling me, AutoCAD is telling me, hey, Paul, you have new layers in your drawing. And duh, I know because I just XREF'd in uh, my furniture plan. So if I look at these unreconciled new layers here, you can see that they are, I've got furniture plan layers from the furniture plan. It says furniture plan. There's um, a little vertical line and then the name of the layer. So this is the ANO DIMS layer for the furniture plan. And if I scroll down, look at this. I also have the partition plan layers as well. And these say partition plan A dims. So this layer only affects the dimensions on the partition plan, and this layer affects the A dims on the furniture plan. And if I look over here on these filters over here and I click on XREF, I now have two XREFs here. I have a furniture plan XREF and partition plan. And if I click on furniture plan, it is showing me all of the layers that are on the furniture plan. And if I click on partition plan, it is showing me all of the layers that are on the partition plan. So let me go over to unreconciled new layers. These are all of the layers, and I want to reconcile them. So I'm going to select all, and to do that, the easiest way to do that is just Control A. Oop, wait, let me go on this part, Control A. There we go. And then right click and find reconcile layers. It's about, I don't know, a quarter of the way down. Reconcile layer. And all of my layers are now reconciled. They're still selected here, so I can just deselect them or just select a single layer. And there they are, all in my list of layers here. Now, if I don't want to
Oh,
see,
can you?
yeah,
I'm sorry, can you go over that one more time?
uh, well, I already reconciled them, but just select. So over here, it'll say unreconciled layers, and then select the layers and then right click on them. And this mine doesn't have it, but it'll say somewhere around here, reconcile layers. Is that what you were asking about? Reconciling?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Did that help? Hopefully.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right. So if I don't want to, and if I, let me close this for a sec. If I go to my layer drop down here, you can see that it's showing all of my XREF in layers. And as we're working, I probably don't want to see those. So what I can do is I'll open up my layer properties and I'm going to select here from in this layer tree over here, I'll click all non-XREF layers. And if I click on that, those are all of the layers that are in my drawing. So we just started a new drawing. It came preloaded with these layers, and then we added this one XREF furniture plan layer here. So, okay, that is um we've got our plan in. So now let's look at what our goal is. Let me bring this onto my screen. Okay, so this is our reflected ceiling plan. It is when you are looking at this, it's as if you put a mirror on the floor of the floor plan, and then you're looking up at the ceiling. So we've got two kinds of ceilings here. First is a lay-in ceiling. This is just a 2 by 2 two, and when I say 2 by 2, I mean 2 foot by 2 foot ceiling tiles. And ceiling tiles, generally speaking, come in two different sizes. Well, they come in a whole bunch of sizes, but the two most common sizes are 2 foot by 2 foot, which is what these are, and 2 foot by 4 foot, which is a rectangular ceiling tile. If you go on campus and you look in any one of the classrooms where there's a ceiling, you'll see those ceilings, I believe, are 2 feet by 4 feet. So the ceiling tiles are rectangular. But for this project, we're going to make them square, 2 foot by 2 feet. So each one of these squares represents 2 feet by 2 feet. And we're covering most of the space, all of the offices, and this area here where all of our workstations are. We're covering that with the ceiling tiles. This area here, and remember the entrance to our spaces is right here. This area here, we have no ceiling. it's going to be, just kind of like industrial style. So it's going to be high up, and you'll see ductwork, and light fixtures will be hanging from pendants in this area, and just kind of has that gritty industrial vibe. Think like Starbucks. Starbucks is a good example because if you've ever gone in one, uh, the customer area usually has no ceiling. You can see the ductwork going through, and electrical and all kinds of stuff going on up in the ceiling, and they usually paint it out in like a not necessarily a black, but maybe like a gray color. Sometimes you see that it painted out white as well. And then this area here has the lay ceiling. And then this right here, let me zoom in. This is a little soffit, and it gives us the transition between the no ceiling area and the ceiling tile area. So what I did for you all, just to help you visualize this, is I just created a little SketchUp model here, just to kind of like help you visualize this. So, our lobby area is over here, and it's going to have no ceiling. This is all this is the floor of the ceiling above. And then there may be, ducts that are running through here, and then the light fixtures, pendant light fixtures will be hanging from this ceiling up here. And then here in this area here, this is the lay-in ceiling tiles. So these are the 2 foot by 2 foot ceiling tiles. And where they end here, we have this little soffit here. And that soffit is made of studs. Let me look at behind the soffit here. So there is a stud that runs all the way across. It literally gets bolted into the ceiling, or up into the floor above, and then hanging from it are studs every 16 inches, and then we wrap it with drywall. So drywall is coming down on this side, it comes underneath, and then comes up the other side. And then the lay-in ceiling here butts up next to it. So that's generally how it works. So when you're looking at the ceiling plan, you can see this is the area that has no ceiling, and this is the lay-in ceiling over here, and then this is that little soffit that is running along between the transition between ceiling and no ceiling. So back to our drawing here. So you can see here, this is that soffit that's running along, that's closing off the ceiling versus no ceiling area, that transition. Okay, so this is when they lay this ceiling, it's all going to be laid at the same time. All of the ceiling will get laid all at once, and then the partition folks will come in and they will build the partitions underneath the ceiling. So what will happen is the the ceiling will be all in place, and then the partition guys are going to come in with their studs, and their studs will literally attach to the top of the ceiling or attach to the bottom of the ceiling, and all of the partitions will go right to the ceiling. Sometimes the partitions in certain projects or certain buildings, they go through the ceiling, and then you have to do separate ceilings for each and every room. But this is a lot more efficient and easier for the contractors to build. So the starting point where all of the ceiling is going to start is, let me come down to, this is our break room over here in the lower right. And along this wall, we have our one full ceiling tile. That ceiling tile is starting right along this wall. So this is where this first grid line, ceiling grid line is. That is exactly 2 feet from the wall. And then these ceiling grids that are running vertically in this direction, they are starting along this wall here, that funky angled wall that we've got. So this dimension is going to be 2 feet as well. So when it comes time to dimension our ceiling for the contractor so that, he or she knows where to start, we're going to let them know that at this point the grid is 2 feet off of this wall and the grid is 2 feet off of this wall here. So our starting point is actually, it's kind of like in the wall or right in this pier here. Is if I kind of like extend this line into the pier and extend this line down into it, they kind of come to a starting point like right here, like right where my cursor is. So that's where we're going to actually start. And then later we'll trim that out. But we'll start here with the grid line running this direction and then the grid line running up in that direction. All right, so let's dive in. I'm going to take this and put it on my other screen so I can refer to it. And let's look at layers. What do we got? Okay, so I've got a ceiling layer, and I'm going to put that soffit that's running around, separating the no ceiling area from the lay-in ceiling area. That's going to go on my ceiling layer. And then look at this. I have a ceiling grid layer. So that is also going to go, or my ceiling grid is going to go on the ceiling grid layer. I'm thinking here, um, thinking about before I even do that, let me freeze some layers because right now I'm gonna bring all of this furniture back later on, but right now I want this to be nice and clean, and this is just causing me a little bit of confusion right here. So I'm gonna freeze a bunch of layers here. So I'm just gonna go over to my little freeze layer button here, and I'm gonna freeze my furniture. Oop, I think I'm gonna freeze my furniture. Maybe all of it is freezing. And if that's the case, all right, so like all of that furniture and the ceiling grid or the partitions are freezing. So let me just go back here for a sec here. Let me just make sure that this is on the right layer. Oh my gosh. So look at this. So I made a fateful mistake here. So I'm back on my furniture plan here. And actually, I'm glad this happened. So what you notice that when I turned off the furniture layer, my partitions froze as well. And when go over to my furniture plan and I select my partitions, look at this. For some bizarre reason, I put my partitions on my iFurniture 2 layer, which is not what I want. So let's correct that right now. And I'm going to come down and put it on my XREF partitions layer. This is why this is so important, because when I froze my furniture, my partitions froze with them. And that's the reason why, because they were on the same layer. So let me just double check. Yes, now my XREF my partitions are on the XREF partitions layer where they belong. And I'm going to save my furniture plan. So I'm going to click on save. And now I'll go back to my ceiling plan. And sure enough, I get a message down here that says an XREF was modified. Reload the furniture plan. And I have compare the changes. I don't need to compare the changes. I know what the changes are, so I'm going to uncheck that. I generally keep that unchecked. So I'm just going to reload my furniture plan. And doesn't look like anything happened, but hopefully now the partitions are on the XREF partitions and the furniture is on the furniture plan. So let me go to freeze and let's freeze the furniture, and there. Now our furniture froze, but our partitions did not. So I don't need these dimensions. The ceiling guys do not need to know what the dimensions are. I don't need to see millwork. I think that's, oh, I have a little sink in the kitchen area here, so I'll freeze that. The ceiling people don't need to know about the sink. And I'm going to freeze one more thing, and that is the doors. When we are looking at a ceiling, when we are looking at a ceiling plan, notice that we do not see doors. That is, unless the door goes all the way to the ceiling. If it's a full height door, like a pivot door or something, that is literally all the way to the ceiling, we don't see it. But what we are seeing is we're seeing that the a little piece of wall is right here. And this little piece of wall is it's called a header. And if you look, I don't know what room you're in right now, but if you have a doorway into your room, uh, if you look above the door, there is a little chunk of wall, a little piece of wall, and that is a header. So we're going to have to show these headers. It's running over the closet and over these doors here on, oh, excuse me. We're going to need to show those headers on our ceiling plan. So let me back to the ceiling plan here. Let me first freeze the doors. And I'm going to also freeze the front door here. And now that I think looks okay. So now I think I am going to, you know what, I'm going to put the headers in a little later. I want to start with the grid. All right. So if you remember, last time we were working with polar tracking, and we were setting our tracking angle, or our polar coordinate angle, to one of these wacky degrees: 27, 117, 207, and 297. And that allowed us, let me set that, that allowed us, I'm going to change my layer here to my ceiling grid layer. That allowed us to draw lines on that 27-degree angle. If I turn ortho on, and I go to my line tool, I am drawing lines vertically and horizontally and vertically, and only that direction. So I just want to stop for a moment and talk about the, oh, that's my properties palette. You know what? I'm just going to close this for now. Right. So I want to talk about the UCS icon here. This is the UCS icon. UCS means User Coordinate System. And all the way back in CAD 1, on the very first day, I pointed out the UCS icon, and I spent literally about 4 seconds on it. I just mentioned it, and that was it. And we never talked about it again. So I want to talk about it a little bit more right now. So the UCS icon it's got an X. It's giving me an X direction and a Y direction, and these are coordinates. So there is a 0 point, and then uh, anything that is horizontal is running in the X direction, and anything running vertically is in the Y direction. And we don't really think much about it, but AutoCAD is thinking about it. So every single entity that we put in our drawing, whether it's a external reference, or a line, or a piece of text, or a circle, or whatever it is, it has, like a line has a start point and an end point. And AutoCAD has a coordinate for that start point and for that end point. If it's a circle, it has a coordinate for the center of the point and the quadrants of the circle. So AutoCAD is thinking in those coordinates. And when I'm drawing when ortho mode is on, I'm thinking in terms of horizontal and vertical lines. right? But AutoCAD is thinking in terms of X direction lines and Y direction lines, where X direction lines are running horizontally and Y direction lines are running vertically. So when we are working in regular AutoCAD, we are working in what AutoCAD refers to as the world coordinate system. It is the basic coordinate system where X is horizontal and Y is vertical. But we can change this. And I can rotate my UCS, my user coordinate system, so that when I'm working in ortho mode, vertical lines are running at 27 degrees and horizontal lines are running at 207 degrees. So I am going to do that now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my cursor over onto the UCS icon here, and I'm just hovering over it and letting it highlight. And then I'm going to right click, not left, but right click on it. And I'm going to go over to rotate axis. And I have three options, X, Y, and Z. So we know what X is, horizontal. We know what Y is, vertical. But what is Z? Z is the axis that is coming out of the screen right directly toward us. It's the three-dimensional view. So when we are working on a floor plan here, we're looking at this two-dimensionally, but if we were looking at this in isometric, there would be three dimensions, an X, Y, and Z, which is, going up into the air. So what we want to do is we want to rotate our UCS along the Z axis. So I'm going to just choose Z right now. And as I move my cursor, you can see that my X and Y UCS icon is flipping in 90 degrees. And it's doing that because my ortho is turned on. If I come over here and I turn my ortho mode off, now I can change my UCS to any angle that I want, like the 27 degrees. And I could just type in 27 and that would be fine. That would set my UCS to 27 degrees. But what I could do is just come down here and turn my polar tracking on. And now when I come up there, I've snapped to 27 degrees. And you can see, at least on my screen there, it says polar, and then there is the little less than sign, which signifies the angle, and it says 27 degrees. So I'm just going to left click on that, and you will immediately see that my UCS icon has rotated. And my X direction is now going up in this way, and my Y direction is now going this way. And my cursor has changed. The crosshairs on my cursor have changed as well. They are also going in the 27 degrees in this direction, and then whatever it is in this direction. And I'm no longer going vertically and horizontally. I'm following the X and Y coordinates here, the direction of X and Y on my UCS. So if I turn my ortho mode on and draw a line, my lines are running exactly along that UCS. And anything that I do will be aligned with this 27-degree UCS. We could have drawn our walls this way, and they would have come in perfectly along that 27 degrees. We could have inserted all of our furniture this way, and it would have come in directly at 27 degrees, and we didn't have to rotate it. And the reason I didn't do it that way was I wanted to give you practice with bringing it in and rotating it. So, but for now, and for next week, we're going to rotate our UCS and change it to this 27-degree user coordinate system. Now, if I ever want to get back to my world coordinate system, remember the world coordinate system is the default, I can type UCS as in user coordinate system, and then I can either type the letter W or, wait, let me try that again, UCS. I can come down here to, oh, it's snapping to it. So, all right, so I'll just type UCS, enter, and I'll just type the letter W for world and enter. And immediately my UCS has changed back to the XY, and my cursor or my crosshairs on my cursor have also changed back. And if I want to revert back to the previous UCS, all I need to do is type UCS, enter, and type P, P as in previous. And it immediately snaps back to it. So we only need to rotate this once, and then we can toggle back and forth between world and previous if we want to go back to either one of those. All right. Enough of that long sidebar. Let me get rid of all of these wonky lines here. And let's start in with our grid. So I'm going to come over down here to the lower right-hand corner of the break room down here. And with my line tool, I want to pick the parent intersection of where this line extends and meets this line that extends down. I want to select this point right here where if I were to extend this line and if I were to extend this line down, where they would meet. So with my line tool, I'm just gonna hover over this intersection. I'm just hovering over it. And then I will hover over this intersection over here. And then I'll come down and boom, there. My cursor has snapped right onto that intersection. And I have this little white X right there. You may not see it on my screen as white because I have the blue highlighter, but there is a little white X there. And that is the apparent intersection of where those two, that vertical line, this wall line and this wall line meet. All right, so I'm with my line tool and I'm going to draw a big line that is going to go beyond this corner. This corner over here, I want my line to go somewhere beyond that. So I want this to be a big long line that goes beyond this corner. So there it is. And now while I'm at it, let's draw a line in this direction that goes beyond this corner over here. So I'll just go in here and find that endpoint. There it is. And I'm going to just draw a long line just to make sure it goes beyond the corner of our room. So, all right, those are the first grid lines of our project. So now what you can do is, well, you could use offset, couldn't you? You could offset this 2 feet because our grid is 2 feet by 2 feet. So you'd offset this up 2 feet and you'd offset this one to the left 2 feet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I don't know, 120 times in this direction and 130 times in that direction. I have no idea how many times, but you could do it, and that would be one way to get a grid over this entire floor plan. But as you might suspect, I'm going to do it a different way. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use an array. Or in fact, I'm actually going to use two arrays. I'm going to use an array for one array for this line, and I'm going to array it up. And then I'm going to use another array for this line and array it over to the left. So let me go over to array. I'm going to do a rectangular array, and I'm only going to select one object, and that is this line. That's it. So I'll just hit my space bar. And AutoCAD has created a cute little array for me. So the array has columns and rows. So I have three rows. This is one row. This is a second row, and this is a third row. And I have four columns. One column, a second column, a third column, and a fourth column. And I don't need four columns. I just need one column, and I need the space between each one of these to be 2 feet. So let's fix this up. So one column. So let me go over to columns here, and I'm going to change that to one. And sure enough, now I have one column of, or my array is in one column. And I have, mine happens to be 252 feet and change between each one, but I want it to be 2 feet. So I'm going to just change this to 2 feet. Let's try that again. I'm not exactly sure what is going on here because, oh, one column. Okay, I need, oh man, I'm not having, so what I need is between each one of these rows, I have, let me select the array. Between each row, I have 204 feet. And between each row, I need to have 2 feet. So I accidentally put 2 feet in the columns, but it should have been in the rows. So we're going to change that to 2 feet. All right, there it is. I've got 2 feet between each one of these lines. And now I need to figure out how many rows I need. Well, what I'm going to do, and if you remember back when we did the shingles on the building section, we kind of did the same thing here. I'm just going to grab this grip right here, left click on it, and I'm just going to pull up. And it is just putting in rows after rows until I am done, and I'm just going to stop right there. So now I have covered this with an array of lines that are there's 2 feet in between each one. Okay, so now let's do it with the other line. So let me go over to my array tool, choose array, this vertical line in my array, hit my space bar, and now I have yet another array. So um, I need let me think here. So these are rows. I only need one set of rows. So I'm going to change my rows to one. You know what? Here, wait, let's do it this way. Let me grab this grip and I'm going to pull it down to here. So now I have only one set of rows here. And sure enough, look, it changed it to one set of rows. So these are going in the wrong direction. They're going to the right, and I want them to go to the left. And there's a huge difference. There's 233 feet between them. I want there to be 2 feet. So I'm going to just change this 233 feet to 2 feet. This one, 2 feet. I'm changing the distance between my columns to 2 feet. I'm getting my rows and columns mixed up today, but it's no problem. If one doesn't work, then the other one will. All right, so there I have 2 feet in between each one of these, but they're going in the wrong direction. So I'll just grab this grip here, and I'm going to pull it to the left, and I'm just going to come across just so it is extending beyond the floor plan. So I need a few more over here, but I'll deal with that later on. That's just that little piece right there. I'll just add some lines over there later. Okay, so now what I need to do is I need to trim out all of this exterior stuff because I only want the grid inside my floor plan. I don't want it out on the sidewalk and the street outside. I only want it inside my floor plan. So my array is acting as a single entity, and I want my array to act as individual lines. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to explode both of my arrays. both of my arrays. And to do that, I will use the explode command, which is just the letter X and enter. And I'm going to explode this array. And while I'm at it, I will explode this array as well. So what that's done is it has changed each one of these into separate lines. So now I can work with them. I can trim them. So I only want lines inside of my space. I don't want them in the walls, and I certainly don't want them in the street. So if I go over to my trim command, I can start trimming this out, and it is a long, difficult, arduous process to get every single one of these lines only coming to the inside face of my walls. I got a lot of trimming to do. So, why? Why is it trimming like that? Well, by default, let me go back into trim. What trim does is it trims between any two lines, right? So if I hover over here with my trim tool, it's going to trim between this line up here and this line down here. That's how trim works by default. It didn't always work that way, but now with the new AutoCAD, that's what it does. But if I want it to, well, work differently, I can come down here to cutting edges. And if I click cutting edges, then I can click on an edge. So I'm just gonna select this edge right here. Now I'm done selecting edges, so I'm just gonna hit my space bar. And now when I trim beyond that cutting edge, you can see that it trimmed that entire line all the way up to that cutting edge that I selected. Now, if I go over here, it's going to trim everything beyond it because that cutting edge, this is beyond the cutting edge. So I don't want it to do that. So what I would have to do is I would have to come around all the way around and select each piece of line as a cutting edge and then trim outside of it. So obviously there's an easier, yet another easy way to do this. So let's talk about that. Let me change layers here, and I am going to go onto my ceiling layer. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a perimeter that goes around our entire space. And it's going to be a perimeter polyline. And I'm going to put it on the ceiling layer. So I'm setting my ceiling layer to current. And for now, just temporarily, I'm going to turn off my grid, my ceiling grid. And I'm going to turn off my partitions. And I've got glass here, so I'm going to turn off my glazing as well. So all I really want to see at that point, at this point, is my building shell, really. That's all I really want to see right at this point. We'll turn those layers back on later on. All right, so I am going to use a command called boundary. And what boundary does is if I click in the middle of this space, it will find the perimeter all the way around and create a nice polyline. And it does it really, 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 really fast. So that's going to work really, really great, but except at this point where I have no at this point, there's no line. The boundary is not complete all the way around. So I'm just going to kind of just go right in here and I'm just going to draw a little line just to close off this interior boundary. All right, so the command is boundary, Boundary, boundary. And I get this little dialog box that comes up. And one of the thing I want to look for here is island detection. So what's an island? I'm going to pick a point in the middle of the space, and it's going to find the perimeter of that space. It's going to go all the way around. And island detection are like all of the other things that are inside the space, such as these columns. So I'm going to have it detect all of those columns as well. And it will create a little boundary around each one of those columns as well. So that'll be nice. And then the object type is going to be a polyline. I don't want it to be individual lines. I want it to be, a polyline. So leave it a polyline. And I'm going to go over here to pick points. And I'm going to select a point in the middle of my space. And, oh boy, closed boundary cannot be determined. That is annoying. Might be because of this here. So I'm going to make this a little longer. Because boundary can be a little finicky sometimes. Let's try it again. Otherwise, we got a long night ahead of us. Hey, is anybody else doing this, following along and doing this as I'm doing it?
Yeah, mine is saying the same thing.
Same here.
Hmm.
Mine is working, I think. The whole thing's highlighted.
Yours is working.
Yeah.
AutoCAD just sometimes. Let me regenerate.
Mine worked if I didn't select pick points. Is
Oh,
it supposed to
all right.
have like yellow outlined all the columns in the perimeter?
So what did you do?
I just clicked OK.
Okay, wait. You know what I'm going to do? I think it might be because of my UCS. So let me change my UCS. UCS, and I'm going to change it to the world coordinate system. So UCSW. Now I'm going to cross my fingers. There. So, okay. So folks who it didn't work for, try that. Change your UCS back to the world coordinate system. So type in UCS and then W and enter, and then try boundary. And it looks like everything is highlighted. And then I will just hit enter, and it has drawn a boundary clear around my entire plan. Did it work
That
for
was,
Did it work for you all that didn't work the first time?
Yeah, it worked for
yeah,
me.
it worked for me as well.
Okay, good. Yay. All right. So AutoCAD sometimes has for some people it worked but the good news is we now have this boundary that is going all the way around. And by the way, if you want like the area of the space, you can do like all kinds of cool stuff with boundaries. So I'm just gonna type like I'm just sidebarring here. If I type area and I can choose an object down here, and if I select this boundary, it's telling me right here, right here, well, this is the inches, but it's giving me the area of the space. So it's 12,593 and change square feet. So if ever you want to know the area of a room, this is a great tool. I use it all the time for that. Just type in boundary, it gets the perimeter of the room for you, and then you can find out what the area is. All right. So now let's thaw our ceiling grid layer. There it is. And now we can trim, hopefully, against this boundary. And everything on the outside of this boundary will be trimmed away very easily. So let's go to our trim tool and then come down to cutting edges and select that boundary. All right, I'm done selecting objects, so I'll just hit my space bar. And now it's asking for the objects to trim. And I can come through individually and select the lines. But if you remember, if you left click and drag, you can make a fence and select lines outside of that boundary using a fence, which I love to
Hey
do.
Paul, what was that command again for the cutting edge?
The trim command.
Oh, just trim. Okay.
Just trim and then come down to cutting edges and then select the boundary. Got it, Nicole? Was that Nicole?
Yes, I see it now. Thank you.
Okay, cool. So I'm just coming around here, getting all of those. Can you imagine if you had to do this individually, line by line? I mean, that would be it. So I'm just going to come through here. I want to get within my columns here as well, and just get my grid. Oop, missed a little piece here. And oop, I missed some here too. So let me go to cutting edges. Just get this other stuff here. Now, all right, so I need to fix this, and I'm just gonna do like offset 2 feet. Yeah, it looks like I only need to do it one. And then if I go to trim and then cutting edges, select that boundary. And if I hold my shift key, if you remember, if you're on trim and you hold shift, it changes to extend, and it will extend my grid to that boundary. I'm holding shift as I do that. Lovely. Good. All right. Now, I need to also, and this is where it gets a little bit arduous. I need to get rid of the grid over the columns. Remember, the columns are going all the way up, and the grid is going to go around the columns, not through them. So we want to draw this accurately and as professionally as possible. So again, I'm going to go to trim and I'll select cutting edges, and I think I'll choose a couple of these here. I just chose those 5 there, and then I'm done selecting the cutting edges, so I'll just hit my space bar, and then I can just trim out these. And I'm not going to do all of them. You can later on tonight or when at your leisure put on some music that's soothing and do this therapeutic trimming within the columns. And if the column hatch is getting in your way, is bothering you, well, you know what? Just freeze it. Can't. Why can't I freeze my? I'm just having one issue after another tonight, aren't I? There it is. So your goal is to have, nice clean columns when you're done, not this wonkiness. Okay, so now let's talk about this area here. we don't want our ceiling grid in this area. This is at by our entry area. We want our ceiling grid to start along this soffit that we're going to draw over here. So let's draw that soffit. So do I want to, I think I'm going to start here. This is probably the best place to start here, like right near this column. So as I'm looking at this, I want these ceiling tiles to be full tiles, right? I want this to be full 2 feet, and I want this ceiling tile to be 2 full feet as well. So I want to be aware of that as I'm drawing my line coming down here. All right, so let me put this on my other screen and hopefully I can figure this out. The column that I am dealing with is right this. I've got this column, this corner right here, and if I go straight up and one, hold on, wait. Yeah, if I go straight up and one over, this is the column that we're going to start with. So, with my line tool, I'm going to kind of just start right at this intersection. I'm just going to start to draw. Oh, you know what? Let me rotate my UCS again. So I'm going to go to UCS and then P for previous and change it to the 27 degrees. That way I can be drawing right along these lines here. So I'm going to start at this column. So this corner column, go up and then over one. And I am going to go right at that corner. And I'm going to draw a little line just that far. I think I am. Let's try that again. I'll just go to that perpendicular right there. So that's just starting me off. And then I have another line that is going to go over here. So two tiles down. I'm going to start here and I'm going to go up in that direction. And then I will connect the dots. I'll draw this here. So those are the edges of my soffits. So let's offset. So the soffit is going to be the same thickness as a wall. It's going to be 5 inches. So I'm going to offset 5 inches. And then I want a whole tile here. Remember, there's going to be no ceiling down here, and the ceiling is going to be in the upper area here. So I want this to be a whole tile. So I want to offset down away from the whole tile. And I want a whole 2 foot tile over here. So I'm going to offset down away from this whole tile. And then over here, I can offset to the right or to the left. Well, if I offset to the left, it's like intersecting with a column, which is wonky. So I'm going to offset to the right here. And then, so as not to confuse myself, right now, I'm just going to go and I'm going to fillet these lines so that I am clear as to where the soffit is going. Okay, so there it is started. And I am also, the soffit is going to come up straight up from this corner right here. So since I'm going to be going straight up and not in that 27 degrees, let's flip our UCS. So back to the world. So UCS, enter, and W for world. And then I am going to just draw a little piece of soffit, and I want to make sure that I am going straight up, exactly straight up. And I'm going to offset it 5 inches. So I have two directions to offset it. I can either offset it to the right, but if I offset it to the right, it's kind of like going into the windows of the front of our, the front of our space. So that's weird. So let's offset it to the left so that it butts up against the column here. It just kind of makes sense to do it that way. So there is the soffit over there. And now I will fillet these corners, these two soffits. There. All right, so that looks good. This is going to come over, it's going to come down, and then it's going to shoot over this direction. But where to? Well, it's going to go to these interior partitions. It's going to go right up to here. So, as you may have guessed, I need to turn on my partitions. So let's see if we can't do that. I'm going to open up my layer properties. And my partitions are XREF, right? And right now I'm just looking at my regular layers here. So so let me go over to my XREFs here, and I'm gonna are my partitions on the furniture plan? Well, yeah, but really they're on the partition plan. So let's go over to the partition plan. Well, no, actually maybe they are on the furniture plan. Let's see if we can find them. So furniture, wall. I'm looking for a wall, and a wall is not frozen on my furniture plan. So that means I have to look elsewhere. So let me look on the furniture plan. Now let me find a wall here, and oh, a wall new. That's where our new partitions are, and indeed it is frozen. So let me thaw it. So I'm thawing it on my partition plan here. And if I close this, there are my partitions. So now I want to extend this I want to extend this soffit to this partition over here. So I'll use trim. I'll use trim to extend. So first, I'm going to select a cutting edge, and I am going to select, I can't select this here because there's glazing there. So all right, let me turn on my glazing as well. My A glazing new. There's my glazing. So now let me go to trim, cutting edges, and I'm going to select, just to be safe, I'm going to select this window and this line of glass, or the line of glass and this face of the partition. Then I hit my space bar, and this should extend all the way. If I hold my shift key, this should extend right to it. So it's kind of coming through that column, but that's okay. So this is extending all the way to this partition right here. Just what we want. All right. So now before I can trim this out, I've got like these lines here. I'm going to use these lines as my cutting edge, and I don't want to select them all. So I'm going to turn these lines here into a polyline. And to do that, I can use the join command. So JOIN to join. And I'm going to select this side of my soffit. And oh, I should have drawn a line around here as well, but I didn't. That's okay. So I'll just hit enter. And now this is a polyline. So when we select our cutting edges, we can select this polyline, and everything down here will be trimmed. Except It's not going to work over here because we want a cutting edge along this wall here. So let's just draw one. I'm going to do a polyline. And I'm going right from here. So there is a second polyline. Now, if you want, you can join this polyline with this polyline with the join tool. I'm not going to. I'm not going to bother with that. But the main thing I want is this area to be surrounded by polylines by cutting edges, so that when I trim, this grid business down here will be trimmed away. So now the moment of truth. Let me go to trim. Let me go to cutting edges, and I will select this line and this line. And you could, if you wanted, you could select this line as well. You don't really need to because these lines aren't extending beyond it, but I'll just do it just for the sake of doing it. Done selecting my cutting edges, so I'll just hit my spacebar, and now I can trim. And as I trim, you can see it's going from cutting edge to cutting edge, and it's trimming that whole area. Of course, I'm going to use my fence. Carefully go in here and trim all of these lines out. And I got my nice soffit here, and everything has been trimmed out right up to that soffit, just the way it should. And I think at last, finally, I have my grid. Oh, wait. Not quite. It's a little careless. I've got a little grid line there. And I've got a little grid line here that I'm going to trim away. Already. Beautiful. So, a couple more things we need to do, and then I think we've got our ceiling in good shape. And I mentioned that we have all of our doors frozen, but we need to show that little piece of wall that is running above the doors. And that wall is called a header. Sometimes it's called a bulkhead, actually. You'll hear in the industry people talk about a bulkhead, and that is that little chunk of wall that is right above the door. If you look in whatever room you're in and you have a door, you probably have a little piece of wall that is above it. And that is called either a bulkhead or a header. So we need to draw those bulkheads or headers. So I'm going to go over to my layers here. I've got everything showing. I'll go over to my major layers over here and go to my all non-XREF layers. And there is a layer that's already set up for us called a door head. And that is for door headers, that little chunk of wall that is on top of the doors. So I'm going to set that to my current layer. Close this. And now I need to draw my door headers. And the way that I usually do it is with the rectangle tool. For me, it's just the easiest way. It's just 2 points that I select, this and this, and there is my door header. So I have to work my way around the entire drawing and do door headers all the way around. Now over here, I am on that 27 degree. These walls are on the 27 degrees. So let's see. let's change our UCS to 27 degrees. UCS, enter. I'll just type P for previous. And there, now I'm on the 27 degrees. And if I do a rectangle, hopefully, I can do a rectangle on the 27 degrees. So I need to go around to every door and do that. Now, another shortcut that I often do, and this is just my preference. You don't have to do this, but once I have one header, what I will very often do is just sort of copy headers. So I'll just grab that. I'm using the copy command. I'll grab this header. I'll just pick the corner of that header, and then I'll just copy it to this door, and I'll turn off my ortho here. And this door, and well, this one's vertical, but wherever else I have a door on this angle, I don't really have anymore, I think. So I'll come over to here. I'll do a rectangle and then copy this header. Or if it's easier for you, just use the rectangle tool at each and every one. So I hate to mention it to you all, but there is one more thing that I need to do. And let me wait. Well, let's just see. Yeah. So if you look at this ceiling plan here, there's no grid crossing over the uh, the partitions here. The walls don't have grid running through them. And you are going to have to clear that out as well. So you don't really need to do a boundary for the walls, but if you just do trim, and you can either select individual lines or use a fence to come through and do whole areas here. And you just need to kind of work through and clean up all of the partitions. It's a little bit time consuming, I know, but it's really, we're looking for professional quality work here, and that's what we really need to show. So yes, that's a little bit time consuming, but you can do it. Just put on some music, and I find it therapeutic after the first 15 minutes. All right, so there I think is our ceiling plan. I'm going to save this drawing right now. And before I call it a night, I think what I will do is let's XREF the ceiling plan, into our partition plan and create a new sheet. So I'm going to go over to my partition plan here, and let's just bring it in. So on the partition plan, remember when we brought in the furniture, we put it on a new layer, an XREF furniture plan. And I am going to, the same type of thing, I'm going to create a new layer, and I will call it XREF ceiling plan, or ceiling lighting, because our lighting will be on this as well. I'll set this to my current layer. And now let's attach this ceiling plan to our partition plan. Remember, I'm in my partition plan right now. So attach, and I'm going to bring in my ceiling and lighting plan. I'm going to bring it as an attachment. I want to make sure that the scale is 1, 1, and 1. And I want to make sure that the insertion point, this specify on screen, is not checked. And our X, Y, and Z coordinates are set to 0. Remember, that's what we did for all of the other ones. So we want each and every XREF to register exactly on top of the other one. All right, I'll just hit OK, and boom, there it is. There is our ceiling plan on top of everything else. And I've got unreconciled new layers. I may as well just take care of these. So I'm just going to click on it. I'm on my unreconciled new layers area here on this layer tree. I'll just go in and select all, Control A, right click, reconcile layers. And I don't really want to. Well, yeah, I'll leave them on. All right. So now let's look at our building shell here. So my building shell is not showing the ceiling grid, but let me open up this because yours might. And I'm just gonna freeze the ceiling layer. Let me set my layer to something else. All right, let me do it. I'm going to go into model space. I'm going to freeze the ceiling layer for just a moment. And now I'm going to thaw it again. And this is another peculiarity with AutoCAD that sometimes I'm noticing that when I go into my building shell, like I did the first time, it wasn't showing up, the grid wasn't showing up. But in this time, I am seeing the grid. And of course, this is the building shell. We do not want to see the grid or furniture or partitions on this plan. So let me open up my layer. I'm in white model space right now. Let me open up my layer properties, come down to my XREF layers. So do I want to see furniture in my viewport? No. And my furniture layer is locked. And I also do not want to see ceiling. So I'm going to, not locked, but frozen. I'm going to freeze also the ceiling and lighting. Now, notice I'm not freezing it universally. I'm freezing it in the viewport. So I'm making sure that viewport freeze is the one. So I have my ceiling and I have my ceiling lighting frozen and I have my furniture plan. Wait a minute. Freezing the wrong thing here. So I have my ceiling lighting layer frozen and I have my furniture plan frozen. So both of those guys are frozen. And sure enough, that looks good. I'm not seeing partitions. I'm not seeing ceilings. I'm not seeing furniture. Okay, let's move on to a partition plan. Partition plan. Okay, I see partitions, but I also see ceilings. So let's go into white model space. Double click within my white model space. And I'll open up my layer properties. So do I want to see furniture on my partition plan? No, and it is frozen, so that's good. But I also don't want to see ceiling, so I'm going to freeze that as well. So my XREF ceiling lighting is frozen, and my XREF furniture is frozen. So let's see. That looks good. I'm seeing my building shell. I'm seeing my partitions, and I'm not seeing anything else. Furniture plan, same deal. Going into white model space. So what do I want to see? Do I want to see furniture in my furniture plan? Yes, indeed I do. So I'm not going to freeze that one, but I will see my ceiling and I don't want to see my ceiling plan. So I will freeze that. So what I would like you to do is, I'm not going to do it tonight. I'm going to let you boggle over it, and it's not really a big boggle, but I want you to create a new tab for the ceiling plan. So I'll just, just right click, move or copy, create a copy of the furniture plan and change it to the ceiling plan. So change this to ceiling plan, change it to sheet 4, and make sure that only ceiling stuff and partitions are visible. So if I go back to that handout, am I seeing the building shell? Sure am. Am I seeing the partitions? Sure am. Am I seeing the furniture? No, I'm not. So I'm going to leave it there and let you do that on your own. Next week, we will continue on with our ceiling lighting plan, and we will start to pop in light fixtures.